turn your engine off. Pull up the handbrake, pull on the bonnet release lever and open the bonnet. Remove the engine cover. Open the oil fill plug. This will facilitate the flow of the oil when it's being drained. In order to drain your vehicle, you must first lift the front section of your car. This will enable you to access the drain nut. Lift the front of your vehicle and put it in 2-axle stands. We strongly suggest watching the tutorial, raising your vehicle safely before carrying out this step. If the front plastic crankcase is present, you should now remove it to have full access to the drain nut. To do this, use a socket wrench and a 10mm socket. You have to anticipate this by placing a container underneath to collect the oil. You can learn how to make one by watching another of our videos, how to make a used oil collector. Unscrew the drain nut. Use the wrench to begin with and finish off the process by hand. Be careful on the last few turns, the oil can squirt out immediately. Let the oil run out for 10 minutes or so. Replace the drain seal with a new one, then screw the drain nut back in. Start by hand. Then finish off using a wrench without being overzealous, of course. When you change the oil in your car, you must also replace the oil filter. To be able to access the oil filter, you must take off the air inlet conduit. Remove the air inlet conduit by carefully unclipping it from one side and then the other. To ensure comfortable access, remove the solenoid valve located on the radiator frame. To do this, pull upward and free it on one side. You will then be able to see the oil filter more clearly. Place the container so that it collects the oil that will be released during the disassembly of the oil filter. Slide your hand to access the oil filter. Release and unscrew it, turning anti-clockwise. You should be able to release it by hand. If that is not the case, watch the tips video, loosening a stiff oil filter. Compare the new filter with the old one to ensure that they're identical. With the new filter in hand, lightly coat the seal with oil on the screw side. This will help avoid too much friction between the seal and the engine block. Friction can reduce the seal's waterproofing. Coating it with oil also facilitates assembly. Rescrew the filter until you feel contact. When this happens, take it fully in your hand and add an additional half turn to tighten. Put the solenoid valve back in place on the radiator frame. Put the air inlet conduit back in place. Put the crankcase back in place. Now you have to put the oil back into the motor. You have to be very careful and precise when doing this part of the job. Firstly, lower your car back to the ground and check the oil level. This is something that can only be done when the vehicle is flat. Now, add the oil into the engine. Begin by putting 90% of the suggested amount. This will leave you a large enough margin to adjust the level of oil appropriately. You can find the exact amount of oil suggested for your car in the description of the tutorial. Close the oil fill plug. Start the engine and let the car run for 5 seconds. This will fill the oil filter. Remove the oil gauge and wipe it down. Plunge it back into the sheath, remove it again and check the oil level. The optimal level is near the maximum, but be careful never to go over it. Based on the level indicated on the gauge, readjust to obtain the optimum amount. Operation completed.